In everyday situations such as relationships, professional decisions, and personal choices, discernment acts as a compass, guiding us to what is right and steering us away from what could harm us. It helps us protect the heart, preventing the contamination of sin and strengthening our faith. Furthermore, discernment also allows us to assess whether our decisions are truly reflecting God's character and the principles of His Word. When discernment is practiced, not only does our life align with God's will, but our faith is strengthened as we see His hand in every decision made. Courage does not mean the absence of fear, but the willingness to act even in the face of it. We all face challenges on our journey, but courage is the fuel that allows us to take the next step, even when the obstacles seem insurmountable. A powerful example of courage is the story of Deborah, described in Judges 4:8-9. She led an army in a time of great fear and uncertainty. Though the situation was challenging, she did not hesitate to follow God's guidance. She trusted in His direction and faced fear with faith. A true courage is trusting in God even when everything around you says it's impossible. It is the willingness to take steps of faith even when fear is present. The courageous woman understands that, while fear is real, it does not need to control her decisions. She chooses to trust in the God who is greater than any adversity. The courage that comes from God is supernatural. It is not courage based on our strength or abilities, but courage that comes from the Holy Spirit, empowering us to face any adversity with faith and confidence. When we allow ourselves to be filled with divine courage, we know that we are not alone. God is by our side, sustaining us every step of the way. He is our strength and our protection. The courage that comes from God enables us to face life's challenges and see opportunities for His power to be manifested. This courage is an expression of faith in action. It empowers us to act according to what God asks, without fear, but with confidence that He will provide everything we need. When we act with the courage God gives, we are allowing Him to demonstrate His faithfulness and glorify His name through our lives. Humility is the foundation of all Christian virtues. Without it, other qualities cannot genuinely flourish. The woman of God understands that her true greatness lies in serving others, not in seeking recognition or applause. Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the perfect example of humility. When she received God's call to be the mother of the Savior, she did not seek fame or recognition. In Luke 1:38, Mary responded with humility, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." Her willingness to accept God's plan without seeking her own glory is a model for all women. Humility is the key that opens the door to a life full of purpose and meaning. When a woman chooses to live with humility, she begins to reflect the heart of Christ, serving others with genuine love and seeking God's glory in everything she does. Humility is not weakness, but rather the silent strength that God uses to shape His character in us. Humility is more than a virtue. It is a daily attitude of recognizing our dependence on God. It starts with the understanding that everything we have and are comes from God. Nothing in our lives is the result of our own merit, but is a gift of His grace. Practicing humility is serving others without expecting anything in return. It is putting the needs of others before our own, knowing that in serving, we are following Christ's example. The humble woman does not seek recognition or personal honor, but is devoted to serving with a pure heart in humility. In God's kingdom, true greatness is not found in the pursuit of titles or status, but in serving. Jesus taught us that the greatest among you will be your servant. Matthew 23:11. Therefore, practicing humility is embracing the call to serve with joy, knowing that our value lies in being like Christ, not in gaining human applause. Humility is a powerful force. Often the world sees humility as weakness, but in reality it is a disguised strength that comes from the recognition that without God, we can do nothing. The humble woman knows that her true strength comes from her dependence on God and His grace. Humble women possess an inner strength that makes them capable of impacting the world around them in a transformative way. They do not seek personal glory, but as they surrender with humility, God exalts them. He uses them in incredible ways to fulfill His purposes, taking them to places and opportunities that, without His intervention, would be unimaginable. The woman of God who chooses to live with humility becomes a powerful channel of transformation, reflecting Christ's character and showing the world that true strength lies in submitting to God's will. When she surrenders with humility, she becomes a source of light and hope for those around her. Let's delve into these topics in an engaging and profound way, with an inspiring touch to ensure the content resonates with women and motivates them to reflect and act. Virtues as the foundation of a transformed life. Virtues such as wisdom, discernment, courage, humility, patience, generosity, and unwavering faith are much more than personal qualities. They are divine keys to a life of purpose and blessings. A woman of God is not defined solely by the circumstances around her, but by how she reflects the character of Christ through these virtues. Each of these virtues is like a lamp that illuminates a woman's path, guiding her in daily decisions in the most challenging situations. They are not merely a standard of conduct, but a testimony of God's presence in her life. By cultivating them, a woman becomes a true expression of His love and grace. Patience as a silent strength. Patience is not just waiting passively, but actively trusting in God while awaiting the fulfillment of His promises. Hannah in 1 Samuel 1:20 is a perfect example of this. She waited for years for God to answer her prayer, but her faith was rewarded with the birth of Samuel. Her patience was not in vain, as she demonstrated that waiting is not inactivity, but trust in God. When we practice patience, we are saying to God, I trust in your timing. The woman of God understands that even in the most difficult situations, God is working behind the scenes, shaping her future. Patience teaches us to wait with hope, keeping our hearts steadfast, knowing that He is faithful to fulfill what He has promised. Waiting on God's timing does not mean being still or inactive. On the contrary, it means trusting that He is in control of everything, even when we do not see immediate evidence of His action. Patience is the process by which God shapes us and prepares us for something greater. No matter how long the wait, He is preparing something extraordinary for each of us. Patience is one of the deepest ways to develop our faith. As we wait, our trust in God grows stronger, for we see that He always fulfills His promises in His perfect time. It is during this waiting period that our faith is refined, making us more mature and ready for the greatness He has reserved for us. Generosity, giving without expecting anything in return. Generosity is a key characteristic of a woman of God. It reflects the very heart of God, who is generous in love and blessings. The widow who gave her last 2 coins, Mark 12:43-44, teaches us that generosity is not measured by the amount, but by the willingness of the heart. Her attitude was a reflection of unconditional love and total surrender. Generosity is not limited to money or material possessions. It goes far beyond that. It involves offering time, prayer, emotional support, and love. The woman of God understands that everything she possesses is a gift from God, and she is willing to share, knowing that true joy comes from giving to others without expecting anything in return. When you are generous, you not only bless the lives of those who receive, but also experience the true joy of reflecting Christ's character. Generosity opens doors not only for God's blessings in your life, but also for others. As Jesus taught us, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Acts 20:25. Being generous is not just about giving something physical, but also about being sensitive to the needs of others. Often, people's deepest needs are not material, but emotional and spiritual. The generosity of a woman of God encompasses all these areas, and its impact goes far beyond what can be seen. Unshakable faith, the pillar of a transformed life. Unshakable faith is the kind that remains firm, even in the midst of life's storms. The woman with the issue of blood, Mark 5:34, teaches us that unshakable faith can break barriers and bring about miracles. She believed in Jesus' power, and despite the crowd, she touched His garment and was healed. Her faith was the key to the transformation she experienced. True faith is trusting in God, even when everything around you says otherwise. A woman with unshakable faith knows that, regardless of the circumstances, God is in control. She does not falter in the face of opposing winds because she knows that God is faithful and will fulfill his promises. Unshakable faith allows a woman of God to see miracles in her daily life. Even when everything seems to be falling apart, faith keeps her grounded and enables her to see God's hand at work. A woman of faith knows that with God, all things are possible. Matthew 17:20. Faith not only strengthens the woman of God, but it also empowers her to overcome any obstacle. It is through faith that she sees possibilities where the world sees impossibilities. Faith is trusting that God can move mountains, heal wounds, restore relationships, and open doors that no one else can open. How to cultivate virtues and be transformed. The rare virtues, wisdom, discernment, courage, humility, patience, generosity, and unshakable faith, are the true essence of an extraordinary woman in the eyes of God. They are not qualities that can simply be acquired superficially. Rather, they are the result of a heart surrendered to God and committed to his will. Cultivating these virtues begins with prayer, surrender, and trust in God. They are not obtained overnight, but are the fruits of an ongoing relationship with God. The woman of God grows and transforms as she walks with him, developing these virtues at every stage of her life. It does not matter what happened in the past or the mistakes that were made. What matters is the commitment to becoming the woman God created her to be. He has a plan for your life, and by seeking these virtues, you are allowing him to transform you completely. Transformation begins when you choose to live according to God's principles. God expects you to seek his presence, be shaped by his word, and allow him to transform you from the inside out. Perfection is not required, only dedication and a heart willing to follow his way. This is the moment to invite you to take the next step in your spiritual walk. If you feel that God is calling you to something deeper, do not hesitate. Seek his presence, pray for these virtues, and allow him to guide you. And remember, God does not expect perfection, but commitment and trust in his transformative power. Like, share, and subscribe for more content that will help you grow in your walk with God. Let's walk together toward becoming the extraordinary woman that God has planned for us.